What's going on, peeps? Gonna do some quick shout outs and then we'll go ahead and get started. What's going on, Myra's mama, G Gibson, Carolyn Wolf? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you all are doing well. If y'all could share this, I would greatly appreciate it. Give it about 2 more minutes and we'll go ahead and get started. How's the sound this morning? I hope it's okay. Hope it's better than it has been. What's going on, Peter? All right, I'm gonna boost it a little bit more. I don't want y'all to get overpowered because I know I talk low in this portion of the segment. One second, peeps. I'm just sharing this video. I'm glad your morning's going well. You want to do me a favor? This is like super breaking news. All this literally took place in the last 30 minutes, what I'm about to cover. So I would really appreciate if you would share this. This is a YouTube exclusive. Breaking news. Hey Ari, how are you? All right. If you all are ready, I'm ready. Y'all ready? Because I'm ready. Good stuff, good stuff. Okay. So, first of all, good morning. How's everybody doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well. I can't complain. I'm still young, decently, conventionally good looking. My glasses are working fine so I can see. I've had my coffee this morning, so I'm not upset nor frustrated with anybody for no reason at all. So overall, it's been a good morning. So I hope yours has been just as good. The world hasn't come to an end yet. Cross fingers. But there is always something interesting going on in politics nowadays, and today, of course, is no exception. So, as many of you know, the New York Times released an op-ed opinion article from a quote-unquote senior staffer. Isn't it crazy how these anonymous people always have so much to say, but yet whenever someone becomes a legitimate whistleblower and is bold enough in their conviction to not only become a whistleblower, but give their name, put their reputation on the line, whether it be Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Seth Rich, I mean, there are a lot of people out there who have been, Ray McGovern, CIA whistleblower, Cody Snodgrass, CIA asset whistleblower. It seems to me like we always end up throwing those people under the bus. Those people have to literally guard their lives, protect their family. And then yet, when the New York Times releases an op-ed article that is opinion-based from a quote-unquote senior staff member, we're all supposed to get in a frenzy and say, he's protecting himself because of how dangerous it is. No. Like, the New York Times has a lot of making up to do. First of all, so let's just go ahead and clarify that. This is the same company that released an article that said that 17 intelligence agencies agreed that Russia indeed did hack our election in favor of Donald Trump and specifically against Hillary Clinton. However, that article was later retracted. But the damage had already been done. People had lost jobs, lost relationships, lost their trust in journalism on both sides of the fence. The moniker fake news had been assigned to anybody who counteracted that narrative, and they pretty much split at the seams as far as the journalists and the political world. Now the Russian narrative isn't as dangerous, it isn't as impactful in my humble opinion, but the damage was already done nonetheless. And therefore, in my opinion, New York Times has a much higher burden of proof, especially when it comes to opinion pieces, especially when it comes to opinion pieces regarding what's going on in the White House and what's going on as far as the deep state is concerned. So once again, I would appreciate if you all shared this. I'm going to first read a few excerpts from the resistance opinion piece. So the New York Times article says, I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration. I work for the president, but like-minded colleagues and I have vowed to thwart the parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. Now, I want to be very clear about something, and you're going to find it hilarious, but this isn't really news to a lot of us, especially if you're watching this show, or if you watch some of the shows of my colleagues here on YouTube. We have been saying that there has been a resistance within the White House, but not the type of resistance that this guy is talking about. Or he's discussing it, but he's discussing it using different verbiage. But there is a deep state resistance within the White House. I've had this confirmed by former intelligence officials, really senior, let's put it like that, senior intelligence officials. This has been independently confirmed. There is a team of people trying to protect Trump inside the White House. There's also a team of people that are trying to take Trump's administration down. And whether or not you like him or dislike him, the truth of the matter is there should be nobody working to take the administration down of a sitting president. Not because it's Donald Trump, not because it isn't Donald Trump, not if it wasn't Donald Trump, even unfortunately if it was Barack Obama, or if it was Hillary Clinton, or if it was George H.W. Bush or George W. Bush, conspiring to take the president down outside of an election year just to literally just bring him down is a form of treason. It is a felony, a federal offense to conspire against the office of the presidency of the United States of America. And like most of you all know, I am a constitutionalist. I believe in rule of law and law and order, and I believe that it is not equally or equitably applied. And this is just another one of those examples, because if this was Barack Obama, this type of leaks don't happen, unfortunately. And that's because they were all on the same team, which was the deep state or the establishment. So the first couple of paragraphs read as this: President Trump is facing a test to his presidency unlike any faced by a modern American leader, which there's some truth to that. It's not just the special counsel looms large. That's not really true, but whatever. Or that the country is bitterly divided over Trump's leadership, which is true. And he calls him Mr. Trump, which is actually, now granted for me, I'm going to call him whatever I want to. I'm a journalist and I can do that. But as a senior official, saying Mr. Trump instead of President Trump is kind of really disrespectful. Like I said, I am a person that's all about, like, there's certain codes of conduct, if you will, And I just, for these people, it wouldn't be as big of a deal if you've been known to not. I expect Trump to not take the high road because that's never been his MO. But when you're claiming to have the high road, claiming to be the cordial one, to be the altruistic one, to be the morally correct one, and you can't even show the most basic level of respect for the Constitution and for the laws and for the people by putting your convictions and your brand on the line, then it's hard for me to take these things seriously. But he goes on to say that even that his party, the division part, he continues to say that even his party might well lose the White House to an opposition hell-bent on his downfall. Now, the dilemma, which he does not fully grasp, is that many of his senior officials in his own administration are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and worst inclinations. Now, here's what I'll say about that, people. And you can let me know how you feel about it. Trump already knows that there are people within his administration trying to take him down. He's not naive to this. In fact, I would assume that he's very privy to this, considering that he's already fired one CIA official. He's already fired multiple FBI officials. He's had to fire people within his administration. He had open printed pushback against him trying to remove the CIA out of Syria. He later subsequently had open printed in the media pushback from within his senior administration, his executive office, trying to stop him from pulling out of Syria completely. He had open pushback once again when he tried to close a deal that would ultimately lead to the denuclearization of North Korea. He had open push. I mean, there's no way that he could not know this, right? There's no way that he could not know that people are not on his team. We all know. It's a fact. Like they're pretending that he's not, oh, this is such a big deal. I'm just talking about the resistance that everybody's already very aware of in this administration. But whatever, let's continue. I want to get to the part that bothers me. And one part, Trump hasn't had a lot to celebrate as of late, but he said something that, once again, most presidents would never even utter. And so that's why I want to talk about this. Here we go. What this author referred to it is as a two-track presidency, which is true, but not in the way that he is narrating it. But he says, take foreign policy, for example. In public and in private, President Trump shows a preference for autocrats and dictators. Now, what exactly does preference mean? Does he show a preference for autocrats and dictators, or is he going out of his way to make friendships with our enemies who have been historically our enemies for reasons that nobody can really ascertain outside of the intelligence world wants them to remain our enemies because of their influence on resources that we may be interested in around the world? Because otherwise, saying that, oh, Putin is a violent dictator who hated the LGBTQ community or didn't like the LGBTQ community, that was literally almost every single leader we've ever had up until, no, that was Obama was not for equal rights for marriage. Hillary definitely was not. Obviously, George H.W., Bill Clinton, Nixon. I mean, what? So he's no different there. If he's an imperialist, once again, he's no different. We have, it seems like we have a preference towards imperialists rather than against them. Like the North Koreas of the world tend to be isolationists. Even with Russia, they're more so isolationists than imperialists as far as their foreign policy is concerned. So to pretend like you show a preference for somebody simply because you're going out of your way to make friends with them, because if you all recall, President Trump also, before he met with Kim Jong-un, did meet with President Moon of South Korea, and they hit it off. President Moon even credited him with giving, and I don't want to sound like I'm giving this raving review of Trump, but this is this is the only way we can really avoid the idea of Trump derangement syndrome, because that's essentially what we're seeing take place. That's what this whole quote unquote resistance is to take advantage of Trump derangement syndrome. And it's to convince yourself that there is something less nefarious going on behind the scenes than there really is, which is why he brings up these issues. But he talks about his relationship with Vladimir Putin, with Russia, and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, and displays little genuine appreciation for the ties that bind us to allied like-minded nations. Now, these allied like-minded nations, people include countries like England and Great Britain overall, who can't even keep itself together because of the actions that took place overseas, that they actively participated and facilitated, which led to the refugee crisis that they're currently dealing with, which ended up spouting an uprising of xenophobic tendencies and xenophobic hysteria that ultimately led to what became the Brexit vote. That's a like-minded nation. France has a 70% Muslim prison population because of the there's a lot of anti-Islamic sentiment there as well. And then on top of that, overall, Europe has a very anti-Semitic sentiment to it also, which leads to continuously perpetuates the idea that the rest of the Western world is anti-Semitic, and that's why we don't get along with the Israeli government, which is untrue. We don't get along with the Israeli government as far as us progressives are concerned, and even some people on the right, because Netanyahu is a psychopathic serial killer of the pen. Like, he is a monster. Lieberman is a monster. But when you perpetuate these ideas like, oh, we want to be friendly to the leaders of our allied nations just because they're our allied nations, it's funny that he won't mention that our allies also include Saudi Arabia, who's going to war with Yemen. I wouldn't even call it a war as much as I would call it a massacre, using our weapons and our funding in our direction to do so. Qatar helps to fund ISIS with our direction. Saudi Arabia helps to fund ISIS with our direction. What more can I say? Just because they're like-minded nations doesn't mean that we need to be allies with them, because that like-mindedness usually revolves around xenophobia and economic pillaging, economic piracy, if you will, as far as resources that we take from unsuspecting countries with people of color in them, Africa, Venezuela, Honduras, Mexico. I mean, the islands, the list really goes on. So I don't like the idea of this. They do it on purpose. They always say, they name the dictators that are well known that we're not allies with, that Trump is trying to work out a better relationship with. However, leave out that we literally back Saudi Arabia, who cuts off women's heads for dancing in the street. Yeah. I'm sure there's no agenda there, though. But then goes on to say, astute observers have noted, though the rest of the administration is operating on another track, one where countries like Russia are called out for meddling and punished accordingly, and where allies around the world are engaged as peers rather than ridiculed as rivals. Understand, once again, meddling and punished accordingly, according to what? There is absolutely no proof of what you said about the quote-unquote Russian meddling. So this is, once again, New York Times is printing conspiracy theory, unsubstantiated, unproven propaganda. Once again. Let myself publish something like that on my website, or make a video of unsubstantiated claims. Let myself or others let opinion pieces that are simply inflammatory that lack the conviction to put your own name on the line and say, I stand by these words, and they are so substantial. These charges that I'm making are so critical to the success and the progression of the American people in this country, that I stand by these words. I'm willing to put my name's weight on them, and the reason I'm willing to do that is because I'm one of the people willing to move forward and make the sacrifices necessary to help the country move forward, even if that means losing my job with the administration. But by not putting your name on that paper, it shows that you are a coward, which is ironically enough what Trump said. It shows that you do not have the conviction or the gravitas that the Edward Snowdens, the Julian Assanges, the Chelsea Mannings of the world, Ray McGovern, Glenn Greenwald, these type of people who have literally been outcasts, labeled outcasts by America for telling the truth. But if you're being printed in America, the New York Times, and you're claiming and touting the same establishment rhetoric or the same deep state, these are our allies, these are our enemy, live with it, trust our intelligence community's rhetoric, then that shows that you are not actually on our team, because the New York Times is not on our team, and we're very aware of that. If it hasn't been made readily or made adequately aware, been made adequately aware already. So, I want to go ahead and discuss Adam Schiff's comments. So Donald Trump responded to this article. He did it in a few ways, but I'll go ahead and read the tweets. I'm sorry. Sometimes just reading his shit is hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of funny, y'all. Y'all gotta admit. Treason? Question mark. Well, that escalated quickly. It went from an article to treason immediately. There was no in between there. But then he goes on to tweet, does the so-called senior administrative official really exist? Or is it just a failing New York Times with another phony source? If the gutless anonymous person does indeed exist, the Times must, for national security purposes, turn him or her over to the government at once. And here's what's crazy about that. I don't completely disagree with pretty much anything. If you're a senior official with top secret clearance, essentially trying to use that as leverage to undermine the office of the presidency of the United States of America with absolutely no proof or substantiation to any of your claim outside of, but my intelligence community told me this, even though a bunch of people from my intelligence community got fired because they're liars and have been proven to be biased against this particular administration. Should you be turned over? It's not like you're gonna go to jail, but in the interest of national security, the real national security, the kind that I care about, the kind that you care about if you're watching this show, I do believe they should be turned over, because these are the people that are saying, no, we can't pull out of Syria. Yes, we have to maintain our relationship with Saudi Arabia. No, we can't say anything about Yemen. That is why I believe this type of person should be turned over and the name be revealed, because we need to know who is conspiring against our interests. It isn't the president as much that I'm concerned about as this is a person who, in my opinion, has just gone on record by saying, my job is to get Trump out so that our deep state agenda can persist. That's what I take from that article. And why do I say that? Well, I'm going to continue. So Trump then says 2 hours ago, this is like I said, this is why I say it's super breaking news, because a lot of this just took place in the last hour and a half, couple of hours. He says the deep state and the left and their vehicle, the fake news media, are going crazy, and they don't know what to do. This is what's called Trump derangement syndrome, and he is in fact correct about that, unfortunately for the rest of us. The economy is booming like never before. That's a lie. Jobs are at historic highs. That's a lie also. Just want to call that out. Soon 2 Supreme Court justices, which unfortunately is the truth thanks to the Democrats, and maybe declassification to find additional corruption. By the way, half that was not true. Some of it was unfortunately true, and the parts that were true are true because the Democrats have helped him. So yeah, congratulations, Democrats. Anyway, but here's what's the important part of that tweet. He says the deep state and the left and their vehicle, the fake news. That's one of the most accurate statements that I have ever heard Trump say And it's a bigger deal, a much bigger deal than what I think most people were going to give credit for. We always say that we wish that the Bernie Sanders of the world, the Tulsi Gabbards of the world, and other people would mention the deep state more often, because it isn't some fantasy fairy tale world. It's reality. When they say, oh, I'm part of that resistance within the White House, this anonymous person, but I'm not on the left, I'm not part of that resistance, I'm part of the other resistance. What other resistance do you think there is? The Republicans who are on Trump's side are playing party politics as they always have. The Republicans who are on the progressive side, which they are few and far between, if there are any in the federal level, which I doubt there are. The Republicans on the progressive side are making it known, like, that if they stand with single payer, if they stand, for the people, and it has nothing really to do with Trump as much as it has to do with a moral compass. But then there's the other Republicans, the ones who say we're better off with Hillary Clinton in office, like acting to the Democrats who say that John McCain was a hero and should be worshipped by everybody. Like, that is the deep state. Those are those with another agenda who are paid. If they don't know they're deep state, they're getting paid by deep state money. But when you get to a certain senior level, you're very aware of who's writing the checks. So here's what's interesting about this. Out of all of the tweets that Adam Schiff responded to on CNN just 45 minutes ago, unfortunately, I don't have the show yet because it hasn't been made available. I watched it live on CNN this morning. Adam Schiff made a comment essentially saying that the deep state is fake and that Trump is suffering from what he calls deep state paranoia, trying to once again buy into the idea, or at least sell the idea, that anyone who talks about the deep state is a conspiracy theorist. Now, one of the things that I love is in the debate with Kyle Kalinske and Cenk had a discussion, if you will, over Russiagate. Cenk tried to pretend as if the deep state was not real also. One of the things that I respected dearly about Kyle is that he shut that down almost immediately, saying, oh no, it's real. Why are, like, oh yeah, well, some people think, no, it's real. Literally every CIA whistleblower has come out and said that it's real. And yet we're supposed to then take an anonymous source who doesn't have their name or their lives or their family's well-being on the line, who isn't making any personal sacrifice whatsoever. You should have watched that Colin Kaepernick Nike ad, right? Should have watched that Colin Kaepernick Nike ad. Fight for something, even if it means sacrificing everything. Yeah, should have did that and put his name out there, but he didn't. He didn't, and I think that the reason why is because it's not true. I think there is a resistance within the White House, but I don't think that he's part of this resistance that's there to help us. I think he's there to help his people. So the last thing I want to cover. So by the way, Adam Schiff is just about as deep state as you can get. He is the mouthpiece for the deep state within the legislature right now, and I don't think anybody can really deny that. So for the last part of this particular show, I want to talk about Tony Schwartz. So if you don't know, Tony Schwartz is the real author of The Art of the Deal, who is pretty much a paid shill. Some of the things that he does say about Trump are true. So I want to be clear, like some character traits that are obvious character traits, like we know that they're character flaws. He says obvious things, but he also is a ready and willing mouthpiece or a ready and willing paid shill for the deep state. Like it's a fact. If you listen to him talk, it's like, wow, now you conveniently have everything to say about Donald Trump, but you didn't have a negative comment about him whenever you were getting paid for that book that you wrote for him. But whatever. I hate people like that. But he comes out and says something that was kind of groundbreaking, literally just happened this morning. He said that in about 90 to 120 days, Robert Mueller will drop information that is an accumulation of about 40 years worth of legal issues to help the Democrats win back the House of Representatives and the Senate. He said that's one thing that many people are not taking into consideration. What? Okay. Now, y'all gonna have to forgive me because maybe I'm just really bad at keeping up with timelines. Trump got elected in 2016. He started running for office in 2015. Right now, it is currently 2018, and then 2019, 2020. That's about 4 years total of presidency. He wasn't a public figure or public servant, and really until he got elected into office. During the election, if you want to make an argument that if he did some deals that were a little shady, they should be brought into light. But you're telling me you're going to go back 40 years ago as a special counsel that was hired for the Russia collusion, the fact that to perpetuate or substantiate the claim that Trump worked with Russia. You want to go back 40 years. So is anyone still trying to convince me that this is about justice in protecting our elections, or rather only about getting Trump out of office so that the deep state agenda can pursue without, quote unquote, no pun intended, resistance? Period. It's not about whether or not you like Trump or you dislike Trump. Damn Trump. I don't really care about him in this regard when I'm talking about Adam Schiff and Tony Schwartz and CNN and the deep state. Trump right now is a weird little buffer. He's offering us a buffer period for us to get our shit together, put candidates in who we'd like to see win so that we can counteract the deep state agenda, the war profiteering, the insurance piracy, however, I don't have to go into detail about that, but the health insurance crisis, the housing bubble, and the homeless crisis, our trade crises. To look up 40 years worth of wrongdoing for Trump, but not be interested at all in the 2 to 3 years of wrongdoing within the previous administration, the 8 years of wrongdoing overall by the last administration. Like, remember, Mueller was the WMD's guy. Yeah, absolutely. True. Those weapons of mass destruction are absolutely real, 100%. You sure? Yeah, maybe, probably. Yes, probably. What did the checkbook say? You said the check said that they're real? The check said that they're real. He signed the check. He said it's real. That's Robert Mueller. But going into 40 years, for what? Because it sounds like he's trying to use some obfuscated version, like of the emolument clause, but like he won't actually invoke the emolument clause, because once again, if you invoke the emolument clause on Trump, you're gonna have to do it on every single sitting senator and representative to show quid pro quo behavior. So for Tony Schwartz to come out and say that, of course he's probably talked to Mueller about it. So, and it just, by the way, this is what I said how long ago, people? I said the impeachment clauses, the Russiagate, all that stuff was never supposed to be conclusive. It was supposed to be dragged out, and then right before November, that is when they'll release everything to try and win back the House for the controlled opposition, so that the deep state may continue to pay off and prevail with its agenda via controlled opposition. That is what this article is literally emblematic of. It is the essence of controlled opposition. Yeah, Trump has done some great things, but he's really evil at the same time. But, you know, maybe you should acknowledge some of the good things he's done. But look at how evil he is. Nah. But sometimes he's pretty good. But we need to do this. But I'm Republican, and I just said that he's good, but we're going to lose the House if Trump's still allowed to win because he's evil. Like, that article is controlled opposition incarnate. So keep that in mind. And but yeah, be looking out for those CNN videos. They'll likely be released on YouTube today. They'll likely have I'm pretty sure Kyle Collins is going to speak on it in Mike Figueredo, the Humanist Report, and I'm sure Tim's going to speak on it as well. But they're definitely coming out today, and I will try to do another video on this if the video does come out, where I can actually play the source back to you. So yeah. With that being said, I would like to hear more of your comments about this. So make sure you like, make sure you share. Thanks to all the patrons at Patreon. You can do, if you want to donate to our Patreon, you can do that in the link below. Yeah. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. So always remember, people, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.